All right, everybody, what is going on here? We're going to be hopping into a Dokkan, well, not really a Dokkan Fest LR, but like a non-EZA TUR tier list here. So these are kind of the candidates that I have here that I'm going to be putting in the top 10. If you haven't seen any of my other tier lists before, I don't know what to tell you. My tier lists are always terrible. Just some like I guess ground rules here is that there's like a million TURs here. I did add a couple of the heroes units ones to this list right here. Honey made this, so go thank you to Honey Main. There's the Twitter right there. They always keep this updated, right? So it's very nice. Anyway, these are like my candidates for top 10. Basically, what I want to go over is that these color codings on the side indicate tiers. So if you want to tell me that I'm an idiot for putting who I have in number 4 as number 4 and that they should be number 1, well, okay, fine, I agree with you. What I'm trying to kind of make a distinction about here with the TURs is that there are like good TURs and there are like just these mid TURs, right? Like if I put a character at 9 and you're like, no, they should be here, it's like, okay, fine, sure. Like I'm gonna tell you right now, Super Trunks is not in the top 4. And I would not listen to any argument that has him in the top 4. I don't care that he's like the best unit in the game after he transforms. I got to transform first, and I don't like that. So, also, I am mostly a global player. So, evaluating units like these three right here, just separating them out. Where are you? There they are. So, like, evaluating these three, pretty tough. Now I do have a JP account and I have played the Omega event, so I have like a general idea of how that event goes and how like these characters would do in there and like all these characters would do in there if I had all of them on that account. But I don't. So it's like this is from a global player main perspective and just what I've seen from these showcases. I do watch a lot of showcases, a lot of stuff. I got time to kill at work, so I can really just sit down and watch these things. So a lot of this does come down to your own personal experience. If you just have, if Trunks guards for you 100% of the time and you have no issues using him and like these guys are never a liability and you're like, oh, they look great for me, it's like, well, that's fine, right? A lot of this, tier lists are based on personal experiences, and I think people get lost in that. They hop into tier lists thinking like, oh, you better have the exact same opinion as me, and it's like, well, clearly I'm not going to. This is just kind of what I think is good in the game at the moment, and just who aren't. So that's what we're going to be going over today is this, tier list and everything on it. I figured I would do one here. It's been a while. So yeah, let's get started. Listen, coming in at number 10 is Tech Ultimate Gohan. And honestly, you could probably argue anybody here. Well, except for the people in 4, you could argue any of the rest of these units here into like slot 10, and I'd be like, whatever, like that's great. He's just like too good in everything still. Like he's probably coming up on an EZA next year maybe, and he is still just rocking along as like a really solid unit for people. Obviously, he's fallen off to some degree, but I feel more comfortable running him just like in the consistency that he's going to provide a team as opposed to a character like maybe like the Tournament of Power 17 and 18, who I just feel like are going to be a huge liability and provide nothing to me. Like I'd just rather run him. Like that's just where I'm at, right? So he's probably also on better teams. He's going to work better. Like this guy doesn't have any gimmicks to be good, right? You just put him on the team. You just got to make sure he's getting supers, and that's all you have to do. That's it. He also has Brainiacs, which is a nice link with like Bulma if you can get them on a team. It's just like in like Orange Piccolo, he works well with. So whereas these guys, it's like, oh, you got to run them on like a tournament participants team and you need them around an Android. But if you have their Androids link active, I mean, that's great because you need those for them to be good defensively. But sorry, you got to have them next to a Goku to get their passive. It's like, it's just a mess, right? Like, this unit is so poorly designed, it doesn't even make sense. But so anyway, number 10 is Gohan. If you don't like that, I don't know, sub him out for whoever you want. Like, I don't care. Coming in at number 9 is Gohan and Piccolo. In theory, I thought I was going to like this unit more. After I found out that they like their defense in slot 3 wasn't stacking the way I thought it was. I thought that they were giving like 90% support in slot 3 initially whenever their details came out, but I was just looking at rough translations. Once we found out that it wasn't stacking like how I thought it was, and they were only giving, I mean, they're still giving 60%, but they just have some weird quirky things in their passive that just make them not like consistent. and I just have a feeling I'm not going to like this unit. So tentatively, I'm putting them at 9. We'll see whenever they come out on Global where I end up ranking them or like where I end up liking them. I'll probably talk about it in their like 200% showcase video. I'll be like, oh, okay, you know, after I saw them, I'll put them like up here or something. But I just don't think there's any way in the world that they break into this top 4. So again, if you don't like their placing at 9 and you think that they should be like 5, whatever, man. Like, I'm not going to argue with you. I am going to argue with you over them being in the top 4 because they're not. But I'm not going to argue down here. So I honestly could fill out this whole tier list just right away, but, you know, a lot of this is just feeling. Next up, we do have Rose here. Super Saiyan 3 full power Rose. He's good, but he needs to super attack first, and he's also relegated to like the heroes team, which I am not as high on the heroes team as other people. I think I recognize the reality of the heroes team in that it is very, very, very limited. First of all, there's like only 5 to 6 good units on the heroes team or something like that, like 8 at most, maybe, right? So that limits them. And then even their best setups are struggling to hit 600k HP. So it's like, yeah, units like him can tank like a super attack for 300k. That's like all of your health. And you better hope that nobody else takes any damage on that rotation or has taken any damage up to that point, right? So it's just very spooky. And then also he can get hit pretty hard before he attacks. So these AoE fights can hurt him because he gets all of his defense on super attack. It's like I like him, but I think I'm lower on the heroes team than other people. You know, another thing too is that like a lot of people evaluate these heroes units from a rainbowed standpoint. I know a lot of people that been playing the game for a long time, and whenever heroes comes around, they'll dump like 300 stones into it, 500 maybe. They'll get a few heroes units. They'll get like one copy of Limit Breaker Vegito, and they'll dip out of the banner, right? But then it's like everybody wants to evaluate them on their rainbow performance, which I think is the correct way to evaluate them. But I also realize that most of the community is probably not using these guys at their full potential and the team around them at their full potential. It's like they may have bits and pieces of units from years past. And it's, like even I don't have all of the heroes units rainbowed, right? And I mean, I go pretty heavy on these heroes units. So it's like I definitely understand where it's like, you got to have every exact building block to be able to run the heroes team competently. And like Rose to me is just not quite doing enough to get him out of this like mid tier. I think he is good. I would rather run him over like a lot of the units on here. But he's just not like, I don't know. He's just another one of these, just put him in slot 2 and he's great. Yay. Oh, too bad. AoE shred him. Like, I'm tired of these units, right? Like, he's, again, pretty great after he supers, but how many units can we say about on this list, Like, that's just kind of what is in this 5 through 10 tier is, like, units that are just great after they super or something like that, right? It's just... There's too many of those units this year, and I'm not a huge fan of them. I'm kind of burnt on them. So maybe that's affecting my opinion. But yeah, again, it's just like his team, you're not going to have enough HP on it. It's very limited in what you can bring. So I don't know. I'm probably rating them like both of the heroes units on this list because I'll tell you, Vegito's on this list, obviously. But I'm probably lower on him than most people. There's a lot of people like, he's the best in the game, top 3 in the game. And I'm like, yeah, maybe in a vacuum, like if everything works out perfectly for him, but like we can't ignore that his team has like no HP compared to these other high tier units, and I don't know that he's doing enough on his own to really make up for that difference. Whereas a unit like God Goku, who you guys I have known that I've had this guy at number 1 pretty much since he came out, right? It's between like him and Orange Piccolo. And like both Orange Piccolo and God Goku are just doing so much for their teams, or they just provide so much other value that I can't ignore that, right? So anyway, number 7 coming up, I just went ahead and put Gamma 1. Now, I've been using Gamma 1 quite a bit on 21's team recently, and I've definitely not been comfortable with the amount of damage that he takes. Like 100k per normal until he like builds up all the way, and it can be inconsistent building him up. But I still like what he's doing. He has guard for the first couple turns. He's got damage reduction if you get hit enough. I mean, he can build up to a good level defensively. He's got the 70% chance to nullify Merge Zamasu's super attack in the second phase, which is really nice. He's got type advantage there. Again, he supports all allies. with defense and key. He's a good spot on the superhero team. And like he's a solid unit, but he's starting to really age at this point. His defense really isn't keeping up with what it used to be. You know, he really benefits from being next to Gamma 2. And I really think that Gamma 2 is really aged out at this point as well. So it's like, I always said that their kind of lifespans would be tied to each other. And this guy, you know, he does have some powerful Android links that you can get active, but some of the other links that you just get from being next to Gamma 2 or you know, that really boost this guy up. And then also, you know, as we're using him on other teams that aren't just 200%, and you know, just other units are coming out, we're not running his team as much. Like we're gonna start to see him fall a little bit. I still like him for his consistency over units like, you know, them or even like Turles, who didn't really quite make the cut this time. Turles is okay. I want to like Turles. I almost put him at like 10 or 9. What holds me back on Turles is just like he's just not good enough defensively. Like he builds up and like where he caps out at, like his ceiling is just not good enough. Like his defense isn't good enough. So if he got like 30% defense on his super attack effect or something, I mean, he would very easily, I might put him in the top 4, maybe. But he's just another one of these units that's just like, he's just not quite good enough. So I have him down here, just in this organizing tier. Again, you could probably sub out any of these units and put them in like 10 or up into here, and I wouldn't argue too much. I do not care at all about this blue tier. Pretty much, it's like these are just units that it's like, you know, it's like you're building a team, right? And you're like, okay, this is my leader. I have to bring them. Okay, who do I want on the team? And that's like these red units. You immediately go to them. That's like your Bulmas, your future Gohans, your orange Piccolos. It's like, okay, we picked our leader. Now we're picking that unit. Like, it's just like, you know, you pick that unit like you breathe air and drink water. It's just natural. You pick those units. And then down here is just kind of like, well, okay, we need some, you know, last 2 character slots to fill out the team. Okay, Gamma 1 links well with the androids. Let's bring him. Or like, you know, Rose is solid. Let's bring him for like, you know, Vegeto's team, something like that, right? Like they're not usually your first go-to options, although on like Vegeto's team, this guy might be your first go-to option, but it depends on the fight. Okay, number 6, we do have Yamcha. Now this one's close. I almost put 5 and 6 in their own tier. I'm just going to talk about them. It is Android 21 and Yamcha. The reason I have Android 21 over Yamcha is because Android 21 gets better as the fight goes on, and Yamcha just feels like a dodge or die character to me. Yamcha definitely has the better leader skill, but Android 21 I think is just has the higher ceiling. So it's like you could go back again, like they're in the blue tier. So if you want to put Tech Ultimate Gohan above them, sure, go for it. I don't care. But it's like Android 21. I've talked about this extensively in her showcase videos, in that if she just got her 50% chance to dodge, like in her scientist form right here at the start of turn, she would be here. Like, or well, maybe she wouldn't be here, but this spot right here would be red. That is the only thing keeping me from putting her in the red tier. I think she's a great unit. She's very defensive after she super attacks. Her transformation is very good. Her 2 key support that she gives is very nice. Like, I like her. I think her leader skill is a little weak compared to like some of these other units in top tier, but it's not like any. It's probably better than Piccolo Junior's. Piccolo Junior's leader skill is probably the worst of this top 4, which I think is a thing that holds him back a little bit. But yeah, it's like, you know, every unit in the game has like RNG that you have to deal with. But again, she's just another one of these characters that came out this year that's like, oh, you know, after they super, they're just an invincible wall. They can't be hurt. By the way, here's 8 AoE fights, you know, like that's just where we're at with 21. And so I really like her. I want to like her more. But because her dodge chance that she has in base form is locked behind her attacking first, I just, it's what's holding her back for me. And Yamcha's really good. But I've never really liked Yamcha's dodge or die mechanic, and then just how he builds up dodge, I don't like, because it creates separate instances of dodge that he has, so I've never been a huge fan of that. But he does have a really great leader skill. I would say the other thing that I don't like about him is that he peters out after his second rotation really hard, and he's also int, which means that Fusion Zamasu is just basically going to one-shot him if he doesn't dodge, so... and then he's not really super great for Omega either, just because, again, Omega is going to be a bit of a longer fight, and Yamcha peters out after his second turn, and is just a huge liability after that. But the nice thing about him is that he has a very good leader skill, so you can build a strong team around him, whereas, like, 21 is probably going to be the strongest unit on most team builds that you're running. And so if she's not good for a fight, like, you pretty much just can't like run it, right? Whereas Yamcha, it's like you can kind of make up for his weaknesses. Her, it's like, if she's not the best unit on the team, it's going to be rough. So the 16, 17, and 18 did help her though, and I think that they were a favorable addition to her teams, but they just didn't help her enough in like those AoE fights. But it did give them like it did give her another unit that you can put in like slot 1 on her team for those AoE fights. So I like her, but again, she's in this blue mid tier. Like this is like the mid tier. That's what this is. It's just like this is just all the units that came out this year that are just mid. I mean, you could put Kale in here. Kid Goku probably still deserves to be on this list. In fact, I could probably just do this. I would feel much better about this actually over this unit. I might even do this. I really like Kid Goku, but Kid Goku, he's really starting to kind of. I don't want to say he's falling off, but the bosses are catching up to him a little bit. His defense just kind of caps out. It's kind of like Turles, right? It's the same concept where they're both kind of capping out around like this 800k, 700k defense level or so, and just like 20% damage reduction or something. Like these are very similar units, but his team is probably better than Turles's. So, I could do this. I don't, since I haven't used this unit, we'll just keep him down here. I've actually used Kid Goku, but yeah, I mean, these two are actually more similar probably than people would give him credit for, but his support is much better and more free, right? So, I don't know. He's not bad or anything. I'm going to move him into 9. So let's do that. That makes me feel a little bit happier inside. Yeah, we'll keep the rest as it is. Okay, let's go ahead and fill in the red tier and just talk about it all at once. I know people are going to be mad by the placements that I have in here, but again, just they're all in the red tier. So it is what it is, right? They're all in there one way or another. If you guys want to shuffle these guys around, that's fine. What I want to make is that there is a clear distinction between like these units and the other ones. So what I'm going to do is like this, okay? This is like the gap between these units right here. Like these are like the only 4 TURs that actually matter in the game in terms of like non-easy ATURs, and then there's like everyone else down here. Like this is legitimately how I feel like the gap is. It's like, okay, boom, 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 boom. This is like number 4. Everybody can agree on this. We can go back and forth and do this and dance around all day and do like, this number, right? Like we can do all that. But at the end of the day, these are like the top 4 units in the game, right? This is my personal order. I've talked about it in the past why I like God Goku at number 1. It ultimately comes down to a few things. One is he's going to outage probably everyone on this list by far easily. Like that's number 1. Like that's why I like him. Number 2 is like every unit has to deal with some sort of RNG. For, Limit Breaker Vegito, it's like, do we get units that activate his passive, I guess, right? Like that's his. Like what is it, Giant 8 Power or like Crossover, I think it's his. I don't remember exactly, but still, it's like, do we get characters that buff him? Does the team around him survive? He doesn't really have much RNG other than does he get a super attack off before he gets supered or something? So it's like he's very limited on RNG, which is why I think people like him. But I just don't like the team around him enough to move him up any higher. 23rd World Tournament Goku, it's how quickly do you revive with either like this Gohan or the LR GT Goku and Vegeta. So his lifespan is kind of tied to other revival units. So he'll age out as they start to age out or become, like less prevalent in the game or, things like that, right? So that's when this guy's going to age out. He has a very strong leader skill. He probably has, like, of these 4 units, he probably has the strongest leader skill. It'd be close between these two. Because, like, this guy, you're not, like, I don't know. Like, this guy's going to have pretty much all the top tier units, except for maybe Bulma. Bulma's not on this guy's team, but Bulma is on this guy's team. But they're on each other's team, so, I mean, it is what it is. They both have Future Gohan. They both have the GT Duo. This guy would have Orange Piccolo. So yeah, this guy probably has the strongest leader skill in the game. Like honestly, Earthbred Fighters and Battle of Fate is just too good. But again, it's just What I don't like about this guy is that you are very pressured to revive as soon as you can, and opening rotations are going to play a lot into that. And so, like, that's his RNG is, did you get perfect opening rotations where, you can revive immediately on turn two? Did you take enough damage on turn one so that you can even revive on turn two? Did you get your revival unit on turn two? Is this guy in a slot where he's not going to get you killed? Did he guard? It's just like he has a lot of RNG surrounding him that makes him very inconsistent, and it pushes like aggressive play styles, right? Like I don't it's not that I enjoy passive play styles, it's that, it's very risky, and with attempt limits in the game, I don't like that, right? I like units that I can just come in and it's like, okay, very comfortably. I know what I have to do to make them good, and I can work around that. So, whereas, and it's in my control, right? Like, orb placement for God Goku is in my control to an extent. Whereas, like, opening rotations and how much damage I take, I can't really control much at all. So, that's why I don't like him. Now, these two are like the two titans of the game to me in terms of TURs. Really, what only puts God Goku over Piccolo Jr. for me is like the leader skill and links. Piccolo Jr. is a fantastic unit who will work well on any team that you can put him on, and he will like single-handedly will it to victory, which is why I know people put him at number one. I respect this guy. I think he's absolutely incredible. I have had a few turns where he just goes like super, and that's it. Like, he gives me one super and he just stops, and we get clapped up. But I find that to be very rare. For the most part, he comes through every time. He does a ton of damage. He gets his defense up really high. He tanks really well. But what I don't like about this guy is that he has almost zero slot one survivability. Compared to like God Goku. God Goku has the dodge chance. You only need 3 orbs to get his dodge chance, right? Fusion Zamasu is an int phase. Like, probably I would say Fusion Zamasu's hardest phase is his first phase, his int phase. That's like the cheap phase. And this guy's already got type advantage over it. So you don't really need the guard too much. It'll help. But more importantly, what you need is the dodge chance, which you only get for getting, or what you get for getting 3 key spheres as opposed to 6. So it's like you can play around that a little bit easier. Same thing with Omega. This guy's going to be really good for Omega because he stacks defense. Getting him guard is going to be pretty easy. And if you pair him with a Rainbow Orb Changer like Kid Goku or Bulma, it's going to make it even easier. So that's why it's just, I find that mitigating his RNG, which is just his orbs, to be very simple on the teams that he's on. And he has like a lot of flexibility. I can run him on a lot of teams. I mean, so can I can Piccolo Jr. too, but he's going to link well with pretty much any unit that I put around him because he has like the best link set in the game or something. And he has a dodge, he has guarding, and he has stacking. Like, I don't know what more I need to say. He leads a very powerful team. I feel very comfortable anytime. Like, if I'm hopping into like a Fusion Zamasu showcase and I can run double God Goku, I try to do that at all costs because I just feel so safe running him. Double like Piccolo Jr. in the Merge Zamasu fight can almost, I don't want to say it can be a detriment. I mean, well, actually it would be because you wouldn't run double Piccolo Jr. in the Merge Zamasu fight because, first of all, his team isn't good enough. But even if his team was good enough, like, running two of him could be really bad because he takes a lot of damage from the AoEs before he starts getting attacks up and getting his defense up. His first couple hits from the AoEs really do hurt him. So, again, you can go back and forth on these units on which one you like better. If you want to put 23rd World Tournament Goku at 1, that's fine. Just, again, just kind of respect that these are the top 4 to me. Like, this is all that I think matters is these 4, and then we just have, like, this middling trash down here. Like, and not all of these units are trash, but you guys know what I mean, where it's just, like, they're all just, there's so much RNG associated with them. Most of them, I don't like their teams, with, like, Yamcha being the exception. They're all mostly just a super attack, and then you're good defensively. I don't like this. This is just unacceptable, what we have going on down here. It's like, this unit didn't even make it into the organizing tier because I hate them so much. This guy was undertuned whenever he came out last year. This guy's a joke. I could have put them up here because they honestly have more value than, like, some of these units up here at this point. Ginyu, unfortunately, has aged out. His team finally reached the point where it's not competitive anymore, which is sad. Unfortunately, I love Ginyu so much. This guy is like my favorite TUR or something other than, I don't know, God Goku. I mean, God Goku's my number 1 now, but yeah, unfortunately, like, this guy just his team around him has gone to kaput at this point. So Anyway, this is what I think are like the top 10 TURs. So yeah, we got these four up here, a giant, just huge gap, and then these guys down here. So, but you guys let me know what you think are the top 10 TURs. Do you think I got the tiers right, or would you have split the tiers up more? Again, if you guys want to argue about the placement of 5 through 10 or like 1 through 4, I'm not going to argue with these. Like you can mix these up however you want. But my tier list, this is what I want to say are the top four. These are the characters I like in this order. And then down here is just these. But feel free if there's somebody that I left off this list that you would have put on here. Again, you could sub pretty much any of these guys out into slot 10, and I would just be like, whatever, like, fine. Just because I don't think that these guys are just valuable units. So, again, if you guys agree, at least let me know if you at least agree with my tiers. Let me know if I at least got like the tiers right, or if you would be like, no, Gamma 1 deserves to be number 2 or something. I know there's a few of you out there, so let me know what you guys think, though. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Again, I know that I am like the worst tier list maker because I don't talk about the units at all. I just talk about my feelings and things, but that's just how I feel, right? So there we go. Let me remove some of the meme tiers again. Like, I mean, these aren't memes. This is truth. Like, I do feel like there is a giant, enormous gap between Vegito and 21. Like, enormous gap. But, yeah, let me just delete these for meme's sake here. I'll leave like one gap. I'll leave one. Here we go. We'll name this gap. There we go. So this is going to be my official tier list right here. Let me know what you guys think of the placement. Oh, you can't quite see it. There we go. Let me know what you guys think about this top 10 right here. Let me know if you agree with the tiers. Let me know if you would have put Yamcha and 21 in their own tier, or if like 21 should be down here or something. I might have simplified it too much just doing 2 tiers, but to me, there's not much separation between these units that I really want to put a ton of thought into it. So, sorry I kicked out this unit, but yeah, I like Kid Goku better. So, let me know what you guys think as always, and I'll catch you guys next time.